Global economic growth is expected to slow substantially this year, according to projections out today from the International Monetary Fund. The worse-than-expected forecast comes after weeks of turmoil, and the IMF cites President Trump's global tariffs as a cause. As the Wall Street Journal headline put it earlier today, the Dow heads for worst April since 1932. Roben Farzad, host of the podcast Full Disclosure, is here. Roben, thoughts on the news? The IMF slashing its growth outlook, citing President Trump's tariffs.
Yeah, what did we think was going to happen? We know this White House has no love lost for multilateralism and cross-Atlantic experiments and working together. So I think the headlines work for him because, as I've said before, it's thumbing his nose at the system that backstopped globalization and disenfranchised so many of his supporters.
Well, but how does it work for him? I mean, the IMF has revised U.S. economic output down about a full percentage point since January, when the U.S. was the strongest economy in the world, the one he was handed.
Yeah, and that's a self-goal, but you could look at markets today. They're up, the Dow's up 1,000. Wait, we don't know. Yesterday it was down 900 points. It's volatility, and he can still say, and he is saying, that this is hard medicine that we have to take, and people will take it kicking and screaming, but it's going to make us stronger in the long run. And I think his approval ratings still kind of bear that out. Not on the economy per se, and in other metrics where we're seeing a flight to gold and other secure assets, and fear indicators are off the charts, and volatility is off the charts. And meanwhile, he wants us to focus on his battle with his appointed central banker. Oh,
well, let's take a look at that. The president is pointing the finger at Fed Chair Powell, who is fast becoming his target for, the blame for any economic turmoil. Explain to people why that is or isn't appropriate.
Yeah, that I said on TV the other day, in the words of the immortal and late Charlie Murphy on the Chappelle Show, Trump is a habitual line stepper. Right? He's done this with respect to Salvador. He's done this with respect to appointments, rule of law, not listening to advisors necessarily on Gaza and blindsiding them with that idea of a luxury resort. And obviously he's going to do that with the Federal Reserve. And it's a taboo you're not supposed to shatter. You're supposed to, especially this is your own guy that you put in. You're supposed to give him leeway.
And he wants him to lower, to be clear, he wants him to immediately lower the interest rates. And he's saying
yes.
No,
and he thinks he can jawbone him into it by making the economic news worse. And then if you have that self-fulfilling prophecy, he's going to have to cut rates. But the problem is that these moves and keeping immigrants out are inflationary, and it's worsening inflationary pressures in the short run, with the IMF report says as well.
And to explain some of that, that's a workforce that you're keeping out. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of things that are spooking economists, including when the market tanks, the money usually moves to reliable U.S. treasuries. It's not. And now also this is part of the unsettled nature of it all, right? This idea that the world economists are worried that the president might not just point his finger at Fed Chair Powell, but try to fire him.
Yeah, and that's an exceptionalism that we've always had, not just separation of, church and state and the branches of government, but the Federal Reserve has been sacrosanct in its 100-year-plus modern history. Yeah. And we're not Turkey, we're not Brazil, we're not some emerging or frontier market where this stuff gets commingled and bond yields hit 20 and 30%. So this is a real-time, very dangerous experiment when you're talking about a $30 trillion economy that the entire world depends on.
And so far, Powell seems to have one answer: no. Roben Farzad, host of the podcast Full Disclosure, thank you.
Thank you.